Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SMITE Challenger Circuit. I know it's weird on a Friday, but we're bringing you an extra game today, and it's going to be a fun one. We've got Belt Slap coming in against Cold Llamas. Mifflin, I know you're probably excited about this one. It's two fantastic teams that we're going to be able to look at. And as you see the schedule, there's one today, and, well, it's still going on tomorrow, just as it would normally. So you're just getting an extra spice of life in terms of the Challenger Circuit this week. And again, it's just two teams, even though Belt Slap is historically, first place in Phase 1, then they do first place in the playoffs in Phase 1, then first place in Phase 2, first place in the playoffs of Phase 2. There's kind of a pattern with these guys sitting up at the top, but I think Cold Llamas are definitely a team that could give them the run for their money, Mifflin.
Yeah, Cold Llamas was largely hailed as the second best team in this league for a large portion of time. I think the Poppies may have overtaken them recently, but it's still an incredibly strong squad. You've got players like Genetics, Streak Up. I mean, maybe not quite as much name power as over on Belt Slap, but still the potential to fight in for sure.
And it's going to be fun to watch, specifically the matchups that are going to catch my eye. And it is where Pretty Prime is. I think him versus Zeros is going to be a very strong one, as well as Fails over up against Johnny. Since we've seen specifically Johnny on this team, I think we talk about him every week that Belt Slap comes up, and it's just because he makes it very difficult not to talk about him because he does so much for this team in the jungle. I mean, he brings power picks. He has a lot of the ban potential kind of taken towards him. So I'm wondering, it's not always just in the jungle that things are made different here for Belt Slap, but Johnny's kind of he's the front man of the band.
He really is, man. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Johnny is really approaching this as his most high level of play, right? A lot of these players on Belt Slap are coming from the SPL, from competing on the world stage. But Johnny's really trying to prove himself amongst the best, and he's definitely got that hunger about him where he's really just bringing his A game to every single match, and when he's doing his best, he's really looking like the best.
I mean, it's so difficult not to talk about him because what happens when you get into the first game? Oh, right, there's a ban immediately specifically for Johnny on the other side. That Bakasura, you can see bans against them. Ao Kwang is up there. Not someone you typically have to get rid of, but with the way the meta has shifted and the way Belt Slap have been playing, kind of makes sense. Nemesis banned out, though, there by Belt Slap. They typically stick to, kind of what we see in SBL, at least in terms of bans. Sometimes their picks are more European-oriented. You might see teams like Space Station run their picks as well. Kuzenbo comes to mind there. But for the most part, I don't know. I'm expecting just a lot of good from them because, again, they have so many players you have to target out. I mean, every single one of those Cold Llamas bans feels like it's at somebody different on Belt Slap.
Man, Freya and Oleron make it through. I thought for a second we might see Cthulhu as well. These are some interesting bans considering how the meta's shifted. Leaving these magical hunters up means that, well, one of them can get at least one, but the other will be returned to the other end. Oleron generally going to have a lot more team fight potential than Freya will. I imagine Belt Slap does pick up Freya in response. But if they both go into the long lane, Oleron's going to have a very hard time around that second item phase. I mean, anyone will, laning against a Freya. She's got the best 1v1 potential of any singular god. But then Jingwei gets locked in and all my analysis goes out the window.
Well, we've seen her picked up by some of the SBL teams. I'm wondering if she will come in conjunction with a Freya, and maybe it's a Jingwei mid, or if it's going to, again, maybe just take everything you said and go ahead and toss it on out behind you. Matarasu, though, has been one of the top solo laners we've seen, rivaling Cthulhu, at least in terms of where she gets picked, but maybe the only one now that Cthulhu's banned that really stands kind of at the front of the group of who you want over there.
Yeah, I would say Amaterasu, barring Cthulhu, is single-handedly the best soul laner in the game. Just the ability to come into a team fight, apply your passive to an objective or a single target, have that huge engage factor and that dazzling offensive, some self-sustain in lane. She's almost all just on her own. You can leave her on that island in solo and she'll do absolutely fine. She should be able to out-rotate anyone because she is the fastest solo laner. I mean, Amaterasu is really the catch-all. If you want anything, she's got it.
Well, the answer was Uller and Yamoja on the other side. I don't know how Yamoja slipped my mind as well for top picks. I mean, Freya's still available as it comes through to it. And honestly, I at this point wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't get picked or banned unless Belt Slap are maybe going to try and make some weird things happen as they go on now that they have Thoth and Jingwei. But the Yamoja coming through along with an Uller, along with an Oleron, that just feels like a lot of pressure. And then when it comes to team fights, there's a lot of big rectangles you're going to have to worry about coming up from Cold Llamas.
It's going to be tough. And they've also got that added benefit of having that flex matchup. Ullr can go into mid, Olorun can go into mid, where they can go towards the long lane. It depends on where they want to find their pressure. If Olorun's tossed over there with Yamoja in lane, that they should likely still get pressure in long just because of what Yamoja brings to the table. Toss Ullr in mid, you're going to get pressure through mid because just about no one's going to be able to stop him from pushing through. Cold Llamas have an incredibly strong draft, and they're not even sacrificing the late game. Yamoja, fantastic in the team fight, as is Olorun. They still have pressure in the early. Beltslap's going to have to pick some sort of high-pressure jungler to match that, and Ravin is exactly what the doctor ordered.
I love the way that they're bringing this together, and honestly, there's only so much Johnny can do, right? I mean, look down there, you see the Kali ban, the Bakasura ban. He has a ton in his arsenal, but it does finally settle, at least here on the Ravin. I was also interested to see, when we were looking at the ban stats, down at the very bottom, there was, Aphrodite being mentioned as one of the top bans, still available here, maybe something that one of these teams could go, although maybe not fitting as well into either of these team compositions. But Jormungandr locked in, 100% win rate. Not picked often, not played often, but he's coming in with the 100% win rate right alongside that Nike. So are the stats going to help out Cold Llamas here, or are these going to be the exceptions?
It's such a strong draft, man. Everything they need. Engage, backline disruption, just front line, late game hypercarry potential. Cold Llama has it all in spades. This Nike likely going to the jungle role might open her up to getting sundered a little bit early if Beltslap decide to take that into their support player, and you get a huge value in the early. She goes for the Sentinel of Zeus, immediately loses out on 50% of that ability. The shield gets decimated by it. I'm worried about how well this Nike is going to be able to find pressure, but it doesn't super matter because they've got pressure in long and mid just kind of by existing.
I'm excited to see how they're going to be able to break this down because, like you said, they have pressure kind of just leaking out of them at this point. That's a very, very descriptive way to say it. Maybe not the most accurate, but either way, they are going to constantly apply pressure here. But Beltslap are not known for just letting the game, settle and end up giving things away. And you'll notice, guys, over there, iGravy on Cold Llamas. A lot of you might know him by a different name, probably seen him in the Pro League previously. That is Genetics playing there on that Yamoja, so don't fret about some random gravy guy coming in playing Yamoja. This is an accomplished support player either way. I'm excited to see what he has here, along with Trix Tank being on this Xing Shen. I think that's going to be a very interesting support matchup because both of these gods can really seal the deal and make this duo lane hell for the opposing hunters.
They really can. I think there's still going to be a slight edge from Cold Llamas, especially considering they did decide to toss Pretty Prime onto that Olorun in mid. They're sacrificing a little bit of global map pressure, not having Ullr push down that lane, but it only makes that duo lane pressure just insane. You ever get stunned by Emoja, then axe stunned by Ullr, bladed arrows, hail of arrows, follow up from the bubbles. I mean, there's so much damage potential from a range that they could just engage from wherever they want without ever having to really commit their bodies. It's very low committal, and it's a huge amount of reward if they do land their abilities.
Man, and just imagine this Yamoja hits 5 first. Getting locked away in those walls, we've seen the difference those can make. And honestly, I feel like Yamoja, this is a very bad comparison in my eyes, but her Riptides, in my mind, are what old Ymir walls used to be. And honestly, maybe even current Ymir walls, right? Where it's like, if you can hit the right way, you get it at the right angle, it's going to make a fight or break a fight. And I think that's something we've seen in the Pro League. And, well, hey, that pressure you were talking about is going to come out here. Arkle, so low already. Just welcome to lane, buddy. Not much you can do about that.
Yeah, you're going to lose out on just about all of your potions there, and that was only the first wave, and it's not getting any easier. They hit level 2, now Ullr's got 4 abilities. Yamoja finally has the ability to use Riptide if she so chooses. I mean, that lane is going to need a lot of pressure. I'm expecting Johnny to make a rotation at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be, again, the one that I feel like I actively avoid trying to talk about Johnny just because we talk about him so much, and then he just forces it to happen anyway, because he's so essential to Beltslap. And I think it just makes things easier. And I don't think Trixtank and Arkle care if they lose pressure over here because they know what can happen for them, especially with this Ravin making that rotation. But, Ravin, you had mentioned maybe some early game pressure from him. We've talked a lot about him in the Pro League, about being, kind of peaking in that mid-game area. Nemesis has this level 3 gank. Does Ravin have anything like that coming in for him where he really shines early on?
Oh, level 3 gank for Robin is potentially one of the best level 3 ganks in the game. Walks up, finds a root, follows it up with a slow. His damage output's there, or if he decides, he can go ahead and level up his second ability, overhead kick, and just get an additional round of burst and the ability to ignore CC himself. This guy is a beast. I'm talking levels 2 through 10. He might be the highest pressure jungler in the game.
Well, unfortunately, we don't get to see it. I was waiting for Johnny, but it seems like so were Cold Llamas. Gravy and Streak Up going to go ahead and back off and not let him get that opportunity. But he's stuck around Mifflin. That purple buff respawning. And right now you can feel it. Arkle, Trickstank looking to get aggressive. Gravy going to get poked out. They're walking away either with the buff or some kills. It's all going to be up to that. As Zeros, no mana, getting pressured out over there in the jungle. Looks like he'll be safe under tower. And it looks like the purple buff will even be safe here for Cold Llamas, so the invade not working out the way Beltslap wanted it.
That's tough. That was a huge time commitment from Johnny. He wasn't able to farm up his own map. Meanwhile, Fails was rotating through Johnny's jungle, stripping away those back camps, taking away the speed, takes away Thoth's bees as well, so now Zeros is going to be under a little bit of pressure in mid. That was such a huge commitment from Cold Llama.
Well, Julio now. Ooh, beautiful dash is going to be able to help get him away here, but he doesn't want to lose his blue buff. No solo laner does. Doesn't have a lot of mana, though, so he's going to just start backing up here. Loses that one over to Maniac, and I think that can reel in this conversation. Jormungandr, we haven't gotten to see him in a little while, and it's not necessarily for any reason other than the fact that if you want aggression over there, Jormungandr's not really the god that you're locking in for this 1v1 max potential in the solo lane.
Yeah, he seems to have taken a slight fall off. Back in the first phase of Season 7, we said that Sun Wukong was just kind of lesser Jormungandr, and Jormungandr fits that same role of, well, I'm not really going to die. Once I rotate into the late game, I can disrupt the backline. But with recent itemization changes, I think that these warrior solos like Wukong have started to shine a little bit more just because Soul Leader has become available. They can match sustain and potentially even better than Glad Shield used to afford them and still get cooldown and penetration all at the same time. That's not to say that Jormungandr is necessarily weak. He's still got that fantastic CC immune ultimate that's going to be a pseudo-global. He can stealth up, get into the backline, make sure that the mages aren't having a good time. It's just that his power spikes come a little bit slower, and compared to some of the more traditional lane bullies, he doesn't even get as much pressure as he used to, but Maniac's making a good argument for himself.
Oh yeah, and exactly like what you had said, he isn't necessarily going to be losing this lane. In fact, he's kind of showing some dominance over here against the Amaterasu, way more than I would have thought, and that Consuming Bellow may be helping him clear up a little bit more than Amaterasu's mirror is helping her. But for the most part, I expect to see Maniac chill over there. Fails comes through, then maybe they'll find a kill, but otherwise, I don't expect to see him make a whole lot happen. He's not known for his damage, so we'll just have to see and check in on him and Julio a little bit later. Maybe not too much later. I mean, every time I look down in the jungle, Nike's looking to be active, and it's around this blue buff that's coming up. Already going to be getting at least a little aggressive into the jungle. And this time around, Julio has the ult, is able to contest it, but he's at half health. Robin's over here as well. It feels like a fight could happen. It just depends on what Johnny can do to try and make this happen. Blue buff going to get taken down by Cold Llamas, but that's going to be Johnny coming in. We're starting away here. Julio looking to try and fight. The stun's going to come through from Gravy. There's the walls as well. The Sanctified Field, everything to try and lock down this Amaterasu, but that's going to be Trickstain coming in. Finds two, tosses two, kills two with the help of Johnny. They're able to lock that down. They lose their solo laner, but you get a double kill for your jungler, and maybe even more here as he gets aggressive onto Maniac. That feels like it's a worthwhile trade.
Yeah, Cold Llamas get a little bit overzealous with the commitment there. Once Pretty Prime dropped the Sanctified Field, immediately Trickstank comes in on the back line, finds that ultimate, and Johnny gets a double kill. That's why we're always talking about Johnny, by the way. He's where you need him to be. He's dealing damage where you need him to deal damage. I mean, that's a clean start and turns what was a pretty strong invade into a fantastic recoup of golden XP for Beltslap.
And now he's over here on the duo lane, and he's going to be able to follow up that leap, no problem. A couple of hits and another kill for the jungler here. Johnny making sure to put his stamp on this game. And Beltslap, it went from, well, 0 to 4, I guess, really fast in terms of kills. But it's almost like nothing. I mean, you're in the middle of a Sanctified Fields, you're in the middle of a River's Rebuke, and it didn't phase him.
It didn't at all, and it won't phase him ever again. Johnny's hit his pace now. I mean, 3 kills, quickly in the 6-minute mark, and he should continue to find that pressure. But even with all that commitment, because of the jungle pressure that Fails has been able to put on the map, sealing away these bat camps, sealing away the speed buff of the blue a couple times, Johnny's had to sacrifice so much farm that despite being 3-0, he doesn't really have a level lead. The net worth isn't that too far apart. I mean, so far, they're doing a good job, Belt Slap that is, of recouping losses, but they haven't done enough to establish themselves a real lead.
Feels less, the only term I can think to use to describe it is maybe less proactive. They're not necessarily getting anything done for themselves. They're just mitigating losses at this point. So we'll have to see if they turn that around. Trickstank is actually where I look to maybe turn that around. That was such a good whirlwind of Rage and Steel, his ult there to grab 2 people, and now he's in a position to try and lock down even more. Won't be able to grab a Maniac here. And honestly, might be biting off more than he can chew. They force the World Serpent, though, and that's going to be Maniac on the retreat. Gravy's still hanging out over here. They love trying to steal this blue buff. It's not going to work out this time. Fails is going to try to make something happen anywhere they can. Unfortunately for him, it feels like Cold Llamas, they're pulling on the line, but nothing's happening.
Yeah, I like the continued effort. You want to find pressure wherever you can. That seems to be the one place they've been able to get proactive repeatedly. Just this time, they get poked out a little bit too much. Maniac steps up early, gets poked out before his team's able to rotate in on an actual team fight, force the ult away, and then Belt Slap clean up the blue buff, and they likely won't lose another blue buff. I don't even think Cold Llama's got the timer on this one, so they should have complete control.
Getting aggressive, Maniac locked down. No World Serpent, because we just saw him use it. And you might be knock-up immune, but you're not death immune there, so he's going to get taken down, and that's a good way to get Julio back in this. Was a little bit behind there in the solo lane, and now he's going to get some free farm, and it again showcases exactly how impactful Johnny's going to be. You said level 2 through 10. He's almost at that level 10 mark, but being a part of all these kills has definitely been pulling his team up with him.
It is a good look for Johnny, and it's not, I mean, we're never going to get to say a bad look for Johnny. I don't think I've ever seen this man lose his team a game. Always dragging him up, pulling him up by the bootstraps. This guy is so absolutely consistent out of the jungle. But we got to give some shots to Fails as well. He's been able to keep up and farm despite being 2 kills down on Johnny. Neither one has died as of yet. But Fails is continually not really looking for pressure in the lanes. He's more so looking to farm up, get that Nike passive ready, stealing away these camps, going for these neutral objectives. He's been able to clear out the Oracles a couple times, the mid-harpies as well. It seems like Cold Llamas are trying to take a much more subdued approach to the game through their jungler, in that they're all just kind of farming up and then waiting for these opportunities where they can group up and take team fights. Generally, it's been around the blue buff. I think next one should likely be around this Gold Fury or maybe a neutral objective like Pyromancer. But as far as the pace goes, it's been distinctly European, and I expect it to stay that way for the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Speaking of the jungler for Cold Llamas, bringing in this Nike, it's something we haven't gotten to see a whole lot of in Phase 2, because the one time we did, well, Sunder was picked up, and every time that you got this huge Sentinel of Zeus ultimate, the shield would just disappear instantly. And right now, it's a weird topic of conversation just because Trickstank has the blink, no shells online for Belt Slap. Julio, may be able to itemize into that, but it won't be effective until late game. Is that still something that you expect to see Belt Slap to do just to counter that shield, is go something like a Sunder?
It depends on the pace of the game. If we see Fails really start to get some more value in fights with this Nike, I think then Belt Slap are going to look to themselves, okay, how do we address it? Likely going to pick up the Sunder. But since Fails has taken this much more subdued approach, already 2 levels down now, hasn't quite been able to farm up as efficiently for the last couple of minutes, if he keeps this pace up and Fails doesn't really get involved in these team fights, I think it's going to allow Trickstank to be a little bit more versatile with his picks, might even go towards the Heavenly Agility or the Shell, but it depends. If they want to continue putting pressure onto Fails himself, I mean, you can't do much better than literally removing one of his abilities with a Relic.
It is a great counter to have available to you, so we'll have to see as they're starting to tick over to that level 12 mark. First one there's Julio. So he's crossed that line and will be making that decision pretty soon. But the rest of the team, like you said, playing in their very European style of patience and not slipping up where you don't have to. And, it pays off in ways that you might not think, which specifically in my eyes is normally at this point we've maybe seen some pressure onto Pretty Prime, someone playing an Ola run, maybe 0-2, 0-3 if your, jungler chooses for that to be their case. But he's 0-1-0, he finished that Ring of Hecate. This is kind of where I start to expect to see him maybe make a big difference. It seems like Maniac is looking for something, but he might get caught out once again. 4 members surrounding him. They're trying to CC him, but that World Serpent's going to come through. No, not in time! The final judgment rips through. Zeros gets him right before he gets that immunity, and now they're looking to go in even further. Pretty Prime, he's low, but he's alive under the tier 1, but grabbed up by Trickstank, tossed to the Sharks, and Julio's going to chomp on down to that one. There's the Sentinel of Zeus. That's that shield we were talking about earlier. Fails, stays alive because of his ultimate, but he has to watch 2 of his teammates die in the process.
Man, Belt Slap take that fight in commanding fashion, immediately rout the enemy. Maniac again stepping a little bit too far up, looking for a fight on his own, maybe just trying to poke out a little bit of damage, immediately loses his life, doesn't even get into the World Serpent this time, and just goes down from there. Cold Llamas have to disengage. The only one on Belt Slap who even fell remotely low was Julio, and I would say that of the 50% of his health that was missing, 30% of it was taken by a tower. All calculated loss. I mean, Belt Slap just steamroll him. It was perfect play. And a lot of it has to do with Cold Llamas overcommitting with their ultimate. Sanctified Field and the Yamoja ultimate come through at the exact same time and weren't able to lock down anyone. Belt Slap say, oh, word, your best ults are down? Maybe we just start to frag out here. And it absolutely works out.
Maybe we just fight then? I mean, I don't know, like these giant rectangles that can change the pace of a game no longer available and didn't do what they wanted them to do. I think that's a good chance to go ahead and get aggressive. And that's the one thing, they did it very beautifully early on, but it's so difficult in my mind to overlap the two. I mean, how often are Pretty Prime and Gravy ever going to be in the same spot to make the same thing happen unless they're planning for it? And even then, I feel like against a team like Belt Slap, it might end up, you know, being a little worse off for you, having your mid that far aggressive. So maybe we won't see those coming through. But the slow potential, Mifflin, I just love the fact that it's almost a guaranteed lockdown for Yamoja's ult. But it's just so difficult to make it work, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing here, is if Pretty Prime is trying to be aggressive there, he's going to get picked off. That's what happened both times.
Yeah, I agree completely. I want to see Cold Llamas make staggered use of their ultimates because it's not like an Odin cage. Yamoja ultimate is so strong in of itself, not only for lockdown, but the damage potential, the tremor on the tail end of it, that you don't really need the follow-up of another form of CC like Sanctified Field. So if you drop Gravy's ultimate, he cages in too, forces an escape or forces some relics, then you wait a little bit, get a good ultimate from Pretty Prime, and then all the utility that Belts Up had to use won't be available for that second phase of the fight.
Well, right now, Gravy locked down, barely able to get that ult out, and I don't think it's going to make a big difference. Doesn't collapse on anybody, and so with that kill, it's going to be the Gold Fury. Started up, but it's Trickstank blinking forward. Only grabs one this time, but it's Pretty Prime, and that's a big target. Age is going to be used to try and stay alive throughout all of this. Pretty Prime doing everything he can to keep himself alive. The Sanctified Fields are slowing him down, but it's not slowing him down enough. That's going to be his death, but they trade out Arkle in the process. Now Fails getting aggressive. A huge slow with the Sentinel of Zeus to help lock something down, but there's no follow-up. Streak Up doesn't have any mana. Maniac was getting poked out above, and now Cold Llamas have to retreat, but they don't have the life or the damage to try and pick a fight here with Belt Slap.
I think that goes as well as you could hope for Cold Llamas. I mean, that was Belt Slap trying to make a vying play for this Gold Fury. Arkle gets a little bit over-aggressive. Pretty Prime gets caught out himself. Sure, it was a 2-for-1 in favor of Belt Slap, but trading out your support isn't really even a loss in my mind. So I think Cold Llamas just stopping that neutral objective from going down, able to reset the fight, and even get a return kill onto the carry from Belt Slap should be just enough, but they have to continually find those types of plays. They need to farm up. They want to be looking for this team fight. If Belt Slap's going to group up as 5 and look to fight a full-on engagement against Cold Llamas, that's the best engagement that Cold Llamas could want. They have potentially 2 of the best teamfight abilities in the game inside of Sanctified Field and the Yamoja ultimate. Maniac and Fails have fantastic ultimates for that as well. I mean, Belt Slap are kind of playing with fire a little bit in these engagements.
So far, though, walking away, well, mostly unburnt, I guess is the only way I could describe it, right? They aren't walking away unscathed, but they are able to get in. I mean, it's 8-2, right? So they have a lead. They're taking these ults and they're turning it around, but as you level it up, or at least I should say as you level him up, Olaron here has 2 levels down in mid, but he's only going to get more potent as the game goes online, and of course as he gets more items online, we have maybe 1 full item, 1 tier 3 technically above for Zeros, but that Spear of the Magus coming through, it feels like a lot of burst damage from this Thoth that maybe Cold Llamas don't know how to deal with.
burst damage from a range that you can't return damage from. And I think Thoth has a very interesting matchup into Olorun in general, in that if Olorun gets hit by any form of CC, I mean, Thoth's ultimate's gonna kill him. That's just the truth of it. That's all you really need for it. So Pretty Prime's gonna have to play incredibly safe, nearly perfect with his positioning if he wants to get value in these team fights, just because Zero's, his job really is to deal damage to the backline from a distance.
Well, Gold Fury picked up, taken down there by Belt Slap. Maniac looking to get aggressive, fails as well. Big Sentinel Zeus again for the slow onto 4 this time, but it's going to be Trickstank who gets aggressive. Feels like Cold Llamas think they have him locked down, but instead Fails is just separated from the pack, and the rest of them don't have the damage to lock him down. That's going to be 2 clean kills. The jungler and the mid laner for Cold Llamas already gone. Trickstank is low, but he's out of the fight, and now the rest of the team can get aggressive. Julio doesn't have Dazzling Offensive, but they don't even need it. Johnny has that root, has the lockup for Streak Up, and they're going to be able to shut him down. They don't care about Gravy, they don't care about Maniac. They got the carries, and that's what they needed.
Cold Llamas take that fight way too disjointed. Fails is essentially in the enemy back camps while the rest of his team are taking this 4-on-3 engagement in the backline. Belt Slap, Johnny, he sat inside the Sanctified Field for the entire duration and killed enemies through it. I mean, that's ideal scenario for Cold Llamas. You have the jungler at 50% speed dilation for the full duration, and you still weren't able to return the kill onto him. I mean, that's tough. Cold Llamas aren't playing as a unit right now. They're almost all operating on this individual play style. They need to group up, Voltron together, and work as a unit. It so far hasn't panned out, and that's why we're starting to see a 8,000 gold lead in favor of Belt Slap at the 18-minute mark. In Europe, this is insane as far as pace goes.
It's definitely Belt Slap, I think, showcasing their dominance more than anything. And I was waiting until Trickstank hit that level 12 and got that second relic online to talk about this, but there is no shell there for Belt Slap. That's something I honestly didn't think I would ever get to see because of how prominent Shell has been lately. But Thorns picked up for Julio, and then the Sunder picked up here for Trickstank. It's going to make it a lot more difficult to beat Fails, and already difficult time for him. Much like it's difficult to be Pretty Prime anywhere on the map right now. 0-5-1, and Johnny does not seem like he's going to be stopping. It doesn't seem like it's stopping anywhere. Julio under pressure over in the right-hand side of the jungle. But it's Amaterasu. She's more than fine to get away from here. And if anything, she's baited the rest of the team over. Trickstank looking to come in. Beautiful stun from Streak Up's going to be able to stop the aggression. But you can feel Belt Slap wanting to attack.
Lord forgive me, Gore. I gotta do it. I gotta gas up the jungler of Belt Slap yet again. That ultimate in, and then immediately uses the overhead kick to avoid the knockup from Pretty Prime. I mean, it was style points. Even if that knockup comes through, because Sanctified Field was still down, there's no way the Olorun escapes that situation, but Johnny just makes it look so absolutely easy, and now they've got the defensive positioning on the Fire Giant.
Maniac stealthed on in, but now they see him. World Serpent's available. River's Rebuke around here as well. Belt Slap confirmed the Fire Giant and the kill onto Maniac. Now they're looking to chase down anyone who happens to get in their way, but a good Riptide's going to help get Gravy out of here. But is it going to be far enough? Blink up for Johnny, and the blink just used for Gravy, but it's going to be the collapse. Zeros with the root. The damage is going to be enough between 3 carries to burn them down. And Julio, in the meantime, zoning out 2 on his own, doing nothing other than chasing them across the map. A good stun here. It won't even result anything for him, but he's making sure to keep him preoccupied, and that's allowing his team to push up over in right and over in mid. This is going to be a big swing for Belt Slap.
That has got to be so disheartening for Cold Llamas. Actually being in a position where you are forced to retreat from Julio, who is only walking at you menacingly, and you pointed out perfectly, opens up that right side of the map and lets them into this Phoenix with a full minion wave.
And now they're halfway through this Phoenix already. Trickstank used his ult, not to much avail this time, except for zoning, which is all they need here for Cold Llamas. More kills, who needs it?
Fails?
Good slow from Fails, but there's that Sunder once again, and the turnaround! Zeros is still alive! World Serpent comes through. Gravy is the one who gets credit for the kill. There's the Sanctified Field stacked on the River's Rebuke. It comes collapsing in, but it's not enough to save Pretty Prime. It's not enough to save Gravy, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be enough to save this game. Arkle's low, but he's getting aggressive. Great shot from Maniac to get rid of him, and honestly might be something help tearing the reins away from Cold Llamas right now. Maniac still goes down, and I don't know, Mifflin, you've got 20 seconds free time, and any other instant, if your carry was available, I think you could go for the Titan, but this just feels like another Phoenix.
And another Phoenix isn't a bad thing, Gore. I mean,
Oh, no.
they've opened up
That's
the
a
map at
great
60 minutes, at
consolation
22
prize.
minutes. Yeah, this is phenomenal for them. And if they kill Streak up here, could actually go for the Titan, but he's playing safe. You know what? That was perfect team fight from Cold Llamas. Sanctified Field and the Yamojo Ultimate come through together at the exact same time. They actually locked down 2 members inside of it perfectly, and even then, it wasn't enough to fight into the lead that Belt Slaps have established for themselves. The second that Arkle gets knocked low, he goes to the air and perfectly maneuvers to avoid the damage from Maniac initially and return a little bit of damage onto Streak Up. Had he landed 2 auto attacks and both crit, he might have picked up the kill for himself, but he knows that if he backs up into the Ormagonder towards relative safety, towards his own path to the base, he's going to lose his life immediately. So that's just a heads-up play from the Jing Wei. Belt Slap are dominating, man. 13,000 gold in the lead, and it's only going to continue to get worse because Cold Llamas haven't been allowed to farm for the last 10 minutes.
And you see, that, Premier Prime, I guess is the better way to describe it, combo that they're going for between Prime and Gravy just isn't working at this point. I mean, I think the essence of Sanctified Fields and River's Rebuke stacked on top of each other is awesome. But I think in reality, all we're seeing is Pretty Prime go in, ult, get killed, and then Gravy gets killed, and you're just down 2 people now. Nothing has really changed in the process. If they're able to start shutting down Zeros maybe more regularly, Arkle a little more regularly, especially now that this Jingwei has finished off that Fail Knot, we're getting into this late game stage where she's going to be hitting crits. It's just so dangerous to try and take a fight with anybody on Belt Slap because of this massive gold lead.
And the engage from Cold Llamas being fails. I mean, in that last team fight, we saw him blink in, use his ultimate, and before the post-fire animation was done, he already lost his shield.
Well, speaking of already lost, Maniac barely gets away from already losing his life there. World Serpent looking to chase down Zeros here. He's 1 hit away. Maniac's going to be able to get credit for that kill. Johnny's pretty low as well. They're going to have to fall back, but Julio doesn't seem to care. Once again, a double kill for the Amaterasu. The Jungle v Jungle going on and fails. Walks away with the kill. 1 hit away. If anybody on the team is paying attention or if it's going to get pinged out, they'd find it. And it looks like Trickstank is going to be the one to try and chase that one down. Should be able to find this no problem, but it's going to be Streak Up over there in mid. Julio trying to chase him. Arkle looking for the last hit, and he'll find that one. And Fire Minions the whole time, Mifflin, they're pouring into the Titan room. 3 members alive still, 4 Belt Slap, 1 Phoenix left standing. It looks like they're just going to run right through this one. This is going to be the end. Belt Slap turn this lead into a win. They've still got 4 seconds to work with, but they're hesitating as they go into the Titan room. They have the damage, they have the minions, but Streak Up is enough to scare them off. The shielding's going to be good. Gravy coming in to make sure they can turn this one around. They lose Streak Up in the process, but they get rid of the Hunter for Belt Slap. I called it too soon here. Belt Slap aren't able to seal the deal just yet. The timer's just in time for Cold Llamas.
Look, you may have called it too soon, but I don't think you made a wrong call at all. I'm with you, man. I think Belt Slap going to be able to take this one, but it might take a little bit longer now. Right side Phoenix has respawned. Mid Phoenix should be coming up in the next 30 or so seconds, but Fire Giant just now respawning as well, with the rest of Belt Slap coming up alive. 4 members up. Arkle's the only one left still dead, rather. Shouldn't really come down to it too much. Belt Slap should be able to get this Fire Giant relatively for free, especially considering all the resources that Cold Llamas had to use to maintain their base. It's going to be very unsafe for them to move up past these Fire Minion waves to get into the defense, so it should go up to them for free. Belt Slap, again, will be able to regroup. Arkle should likely get the Fire Giant buff as well, as it seems like Belt Slap aren't even going to start it up until he's back alive. I mean, Cold Llamas could potentially move in if Belt Slap keep meandering around. If that mid Phoenix comes back alive, then Cold Llamas can group up as 5 and look for another engagement. It's just, we haven't seen them win a team fight cleanly in a 5v5, so I'm not sure how much I trust them fighting without that unofficial 6-man inside of a Phoenix.
Yeah, one of the scariest people they have on Cold Llamas is running around in a dragon onesie with a plush stuffed animal tied to the end of a stick. But that skin for Nike still is showcasing, again, I think just how deadly she can be, which is jumping into the back, that massive slow. We've seen Fails constantly hitting 3 4-man ultimates with it. Unfortunately, that Sunder's had to make him rethink his life. And realistically, I can't think of another way to word this, but your mid laners 0-7 and 1, Pretty Prime, the ults are okay, but they're not doing what you need them to from the Oleron. And right now, looks like that's going to cost them this right-hand Phoenix a second time. Yak wants to get aggressive, and it seems like Cold Llamas might be in that mindset. They're not going to be able to burst him down before the World Serpent. The last few times this has happened, it's resulted in a kill, and now Arkle is the one getting chased down. Fails, is deep, but the Sentinel of Zeus has already been used. There's the final judgment from Thoth, and that's going to help rip through Fail's health bar. Finalize that one. River's Rebuke comes out. The walls are going to be good to save Streak Up, but not much for anybody else. Johnny with a double kill. Gravy trying to stand between them and the Titan, but it's not going to stand long. And now this Titan should be done. All 5 members standing for Belt Slap pour into the Titan room, and they're going to be able to end this one, find themselves up 1-0.
A convincing game from Belt Slap. I really like the play from Trixtank on that last engagement. For a split second, it looked like Cold Llamas were going to be able to win out on that fight. I mean, Jormungandr dives into the backline. He gets a little bit of follow-up himself, but Trixtank immediately recognizes that he has to stop the follow-up. So he starts channeling the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, knowing that he's likely not even going to hit anyone, but he just makes sure no one can walk in that central area and creates the space for Belt Slap to not only turn that backline fight, but also re-engage themselves. Just perfect play.
Well, 6-1 and 16 for the Amaterasu, 9-1 and 13 for Johnny. I tried to not say his name as much as possible, but when he stamps that many kills in a game, you gotta mention him. And Arkle having a phenomenal game as well, although the damage numbers definitely skewing towards the top 2 members listed there. I just think there's so much that goes right for them. They obviously didn't care too much about giving up that Oleron. They definitely didn't care about trying to pick up the Freya, which is something that confused us. And they used these combos so well. Johnny did not seem to care a single bit about a Sanctified Fields, whether it was fighting the duration in the ultimate, ignoring it when it's on cooldown like this, or just being able to sneak in at the very tail end and clean up some kills. Either way, it worked out well for Belt Slap.
Man, the immune on that knockup, I mean, that's just my jungler spirit smiling to me. Johnny's making an absolute showing in this Robin. I think Arkle's damage is deceptive. Every single fight that Cold Llamas decided to dedicate to shutting down anyone else, if they were instead looking at zeros, if they were diving on a Julio or trying to finish up a kill on Johnny, that's where Arkle was starting to pick up his damage. If he was ever ignored, he popped off, and his KD reflected it. I mean, this guy had a fantastic game, even though his damage doesn't really reflect it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun to watch, specifically how Cold Llamas can retaliate to this. I think there was a lot of essence in that game that showcased the high-level play that we expect out of them. It just never got to come to fruition, whether it's from maybe some missteps on their part, or let's be realistic, the fact that Belt Slap were just prepared for it. That's really what we're going to have to see them adapt to as we go into game number 2 here with picks and bans. And Mifflin, I'm kind of trying to figure out what to change ban-wise. I mean, you banned Bakasura, you had a Kali ban, a Morrigan ban, like the 3 that first jumped to mind were all pretty good bans against Belt Slap, and it still didn't slow them down.
Yeah, I would say that Cold Llamas won the P's and B's. I mean, their draft was so absolutely strong. The only thing that I would have changed, and I said at the beginning of that game, is I would have preferred to see that Ullr go towards mid to just make sure that they're getting pressure in every single lane. Having your Ullr and your Emoja together in the duo lane might be a little bit of overkill in terms of pressure. I mean, if you're able to body out lane, just run it down, ghost style, get some kills over there, sure, that would have got the value, but since it was a lot less of that and just really, I'm going to push your wave in a tower 15 times in a row, I mean, you don't really need both of those gods for that. It would have allowed Oleron to farm up a lot more safely in duo, not that he really took too much pressure in mid, but the big difference maker was the pressure that Ullr would have brought to mid. I think if Cold Llamas want to go for the exact same draft and maybe switch around those 2 players, that would be phenomenal for them. They can't really hope for a much better draft than the one that they just got. Belt Slap played whatever they wanted and kind of got away with it and made it look amazing. So potentially ban out the Robin? I don't know, man. You're right. Cold Llamas have a steep hill to climb.
Well, we get pretty much the same starter bans from Cold Llamas. They swap where the Sobek and the Morrigan are, but they go for the same ones, and they're going right back to this Oleron, but I'm going to be honest, Mifflin, 0-8-1 didn't necessarily make me want to see it again. I think it's too good to give up, but I'm wondering if they can maybe try to turn this around. Maybe it was just a bad game, bad matchup, whatever you want to say for it. So Cold Llamas still opting into that, but Belt Slap at this point, maybe just run it back. The Jingwei picked up, maybe Amaterasu to top it off.
I would love to see the Ama pick come through here. I mean, we already sung her praises last time, but TLDR, potentially the best soul laner that isn't Cthulhu. I mean, she just brings so much to the table. Did you see that Olarun win rate, Gore, it was 20% down at the SCC
not
level.
very high.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just this god has such a high skill floor where you have to be really good at him to see that baseline of real success with him. Sanctified Field is just a tool that is kind of finicky when you're using it. So it seems like it's really about how well you're able to play around your team, how well they're going to play around it. And it seems like, especially from last game, I mean, Cold Llamas were finding the Sanctified Fields. There just really wasn't any follow-up on it.
So, you know, last time we got to see Xingchen picked up for Belt Slap, it was very, very big for Trickstank throughout that game. Now you pick it up alongside the Emoja. So one of them, you know, in my mind, more than likely the Xingchen probably going over to solo lane. But it feels less like a we're going to make this work as much as it is a we just don't want you to take it and we don't want to have to ban it. Is this something that's going to help Cold Llamas out?
Xingchen solo is something that I've had the pleasure of playing with too many times. One of my old teammates, Doris, used to run this god every single game, and he is the epitome of lose lane, win game. He's not going to get pressure in long. He's not going to fight into anyone too well. He's just going to sit over there in short lane, use his HP 5 passive to sustain up for as long as he can, and then rotate into the team fight and hope that he's able to make an impact there. And having an additional Xingchen on your team, another Guardian, is fantastic come team fight phase. But when you're on a team that had just lost in 23 minutes flat, I don't think it's very wise to bank on, all right, let's pick something that scales into the team fight really well, because you really never got to that point in the last game. How can you expect to do it this time?
Well, they banned out the Thoth this time around to try and slow that down, but Kumbhakarna, which was banned last game, makes it in this time around, and I think it just plays into it. It's one of those gods that you don't get to see it at top-level play that often, if at all. I don't think we've seen it in the SBL this year, period. And it's one of those things that he's sometimes flexed over into solo, sometimes he's picked up as support. For Belt Slap, it almost always goes on to Trickstank, and it almost always is just so they can play even more aggressive than they normally do, which is kind of saying something. But there's a Thor, there's an Osiris on the other side. There's a lot of kind of weird picks, I want to say, there for Cold Llamas, is to trying to figure out if this is maybe a Yamoja mid for them. I mean, we'll have to see as we move forward. Is Cold Llamas kind of unique, I don't even know what to describe it, off-meta picks here that are coming through going to help them?
Look, I was using that entire time of you talking. I don't even think I was listening, Gore, because I was trying to figure out where the picks. Yeah, I can't do it, man. This Osiris has thrown me for an absolute loop. I mean, Yamoja likely going into the duo lane, maybe matched up with that Osiris, Olarun mid, Xingchen and solo Thor jungle would be my best guess. And I want to emphasize that is just a guess, because these are such unorthodox picks. Yeah. Whereas Belt Slap brought a real team comp. I mean, everything over there makes sense to me, man. Good luck, Cold Llamas. This has to be some strategy they have in their back pocket. Osiris, if he does go into the duo lane, is going to bring a lot of pressure, a lot of bully potential, but it really depends. If Cold Llamas, or Belt Slap rather, don't want to fight, good luck to Osiris even finding his auto attacks.
Well, Mifflin, I got to ask you, you're bringing in the Amaterasu, the Raven, the Jingwei, all three of which were, the top frags throughout the last game for Belt Slap and just in the game in general. And now you're bringing in a Thor carry here for Streak Up. It's an interesting dynamic. Now, I've seen a lot of lanes, and we've kind of had this discussion. I think it was more prominent in Season 6 while I was still kind of half in, half out on Smite. But, Assassin supports we got to see a good amount of. There's decent CC in Thor, decent damage in Thor. It can snowball you a lane early on when he's paired up with somebody else that can carry. How is that going to work with a Yamoja? I mean, there should still be pressure, right?
They should still get the lane pressure, just a la Yamoja, right? She should be able to push in the wave herself. If Thor Streak Up decides to max out his hammer and he just follows up on Yamoja stuns with double taps, I mean, that's huge poke potential. It could work out, but it's double-edged, right? If he gets poked out in the early game, it's so hard as a melee to fight into a ranged god in lane.
Well, we'll have to see if he can do it here. Beads used real early on. There's going to be the Berserker's Barrage. He's just trying to get a little bit of damage. And I will say, at level 1, double tap for a hammer is going to hit immensely. There's 2 stuns in this lane as well, so if you're looking at it, Arkle with no beads, I expect to see him locked down. It's just whether or not they can make it work consistently as well. That's going to be the big question for me, especially once we hit that same point where we were talking about it last game, that maybe level 3 gank for Johnny, as just out of nowhere it feels like Gravy gets locked down, killed off there. And Trixtank credit for first blood. I just don't know if this lane's going to do what you want it to.
Oh, that's a good start, but he doesn't TP quick enough, and now he might lose out on his life. Streak Up is going to make it out, as it seems like Beltslap aren't willing to follow up. Jingwei with no knockup. It's tough, but we've seen the damage potential, and Johnny's seen it as well, and he wants to put a stop to it.
Yeah, he heard what we were saying, and he decided to come on over right on cue. The root going to be the last thing. The overhand kick style points for that one, just to make sure he gets it. And I think that is honestly perfect timing. Staggered out, Gravy gets to lane right as Streak Up dies. Probably a best way to set this up. You get your jungler rolling, 2 assists there for Arkle. And that little bit of a level lead, even though they've been toying with their lives, it feels like, here on Beltslap, is going to help them get the pressure entirely in their favor in duo lane.
Look, if you drafted to win your lane with this cheesy Thor Yamoja matchup, starting off the lane 0-2 at 2 minutes, likely not what you wanted to see, but still, Thor is going to scale incredibly well in the early game. His hammer is going to get exponentially stronger with every point he puts into it. If he decides to max out Berserker's Barrage, that's still going to deal a ton of damage. Even though Cold Llamas have lost out on this early phase of the lane, they are going to be able to fight in. But playing against Trixtank on this Kumakarna means that this Thor is going to have to play perfect. If he throws his hammer, Kumakarna mezzes him. Oh, you're not allowed to TP anymore. If he TPs in, oh, Kumakarna mezzes him or roots him. You're just going to sit there and take damage from a range while not able to chase down Arkle. I mean, Cold Llamas, I like the strategy. I love unorthodox picks. I love the aggression that they're going for. But it seems like Kumakarna is going to be able to shut down a lot of what Streak Up's looking for.
Yeah, a lot of the check marks the Beltslap needed in Game 1 are honestly exactly the same as they were. I mean, Zeros maybe isn't going to be able to have as many final judgments that make a big difference here, but I don't think Merlin's going to do any less damage than what we saw out of Athoth. It's just going to be more damage over time as opposed to all at once. Otherwise, I mean, literally 3/5 of their team is the exact same, and if Johnny is already in a groove from game number 1, I feel like there's a little bit of danger here to be had, but they have something to try and counter it right now. It might be Arkle's life that's forfeit. A good little bit of a knock-up, trying to get out. Beads use the bubble. Going to be able to bounce into the right spot, but Johnny comes on over. That should be a 1-for-1 trade, but it's support for carry at this point. Streak Up uses that teleport to get out, and that tower is going to do enough to ward away the aggression from Beltslap, keeping him alive for now.
Man, Gravy tilted me right there. He was on 50% health, maybe 60% when he gave up and decided to let go of his keyboard and just hit the taunt button. Had he decided to juke back into the wave, it might have set up Streak Up to potentially return some more damage, return a kill. It might have been able to save Gravy's life. I mean, when you're playing against the best team, you can't give up like that at the 4-minute mark. I mean, that's upsetting to see. But they were able to turn that lane around a little bit. Picking up that kill onto Arkle is absolutely huge for the pace of the match. It returns Streak Up to a state of equity. Now both air quotes carries are at level 4, and once Thor ticks over to 5, he can start doing what soul lane Thors do. Rotate out of duo lane, start to push your pressure onto mid, start looking for kills on zeros. This Merlin is going to be largely susceptible to Anvil of Dawn. There's a lot that you can do with this Thor out of duo besides just sitting in the lane.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the team fight for Cold Llamas looks like. It's much like you said, kind of around where Streak Up's going to go with these ults, semi-global, being able to walk to the Gold Fury Pit and maybe find a good gank is always going to be huge, but you can see the damage numbers he can do. Early on, that hammer chunks, and Arkle is going to be feeling that a lot, but he doesn't have that much mana right now. Still doesn't feel like too much danger, but there's the mez you had highlighted. Epic Uppercut going to knock him up to the skies. River's Rebuke going to be able to find a little bit, but that's going to be the ult from Arkle. Goes into the airstrike, comes down and locks up Streak Up, and now the bubble bounce, it's only going to do so much to get damage returned onto Trixtank. He's low, but now with Johnny misses the root just off the mark, but it doesn't matter. The stun not going to connect. Johnny gets another kill here. Now 1 and 5. For that duo lane in terms of their KD. And the one thing we're missing, Mifflin, is actually where I wanted to talk about next. See a lot from Johnny. Haven't said Fail's name once in a fight.
Yeah, you look, take a peek at Fails' damage right there at the bottom of the charts at 0. Julio picking up a solo kill on a Maniac as well. I mean, we're on pace for the exact same thing we saw last time. Belt Slap looked to be running away from it. I love the playstyle from Johnny. He realizes that this unorthodox duo lane from Cold Llamas is super susceptible to ganks, so he set up a campfire. He kicked back with some s'mores. My man is camping out the long lane, and it's working out perfectly. Streak up, 2 levels down. Good luck killing him.
Well, they're going to be able to come in for the stun. The wall's going to be available, but it doesn't connect here. Fails is walking in for the stun. Finally gets some damage online. Goes for the ult. They're going to take a lot of damage from the tower, but walk away alive for now. Trixtank is in the jungle. Has his blink available if he can get away from Gravy, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be enough. So they're going to get away with murder here. Fails finally putting his stamp on a fight in this game.
Man, the mid lane and the jungle for Cold Llamas just really aren't doing much, huh? Less than 1,000 damage combined between the 3 of them, and that's because it really has been this duo lane pressure. It's all the fights. They've all been there. The supports really haven't even rotated out yet. Normally around this point of the game, you see the 3v3 kind of shift towards the center of the map, but Cold Llamas and Belt Slap seem to have mutually agreed that they want to play a 2-1-2 meta, or a 2-2, as it seems like Fails is pretty comfortable just kind of farming up in mid.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique change overall. And we've had a lot of discussion about the Warriors in the jungle right now, and I don't think there's anything to be said negatively right now about this Osiris, outside of the fact that it maybe just isn't having the same impact that we're seeing out of Johnny. But that might just be Johnny, not anything to do with the gods in play. And right now, though, Fails potentially going to get caught out. Gravy uses his ult, but Fails going to get locked down. There's 3 members surrounding him. Pretty Prime, though, rotating into the fight. Sanctified Fields is going to come down, but it doesn't catch Arkle in time. It forces Trixtank to take an awkward path, though. Ult come
nice
down.
blink.
Fails to try and close the gap, and he's going to be able to walk through, not alive. The passive proc's going to come out. That's going to be a good mez. Johnny's in the neighborhood, but there's 4 members of Cold Llamas here. This might be a mistake for him. Locked down in the mid-Harpy's pit. Ults over the wall, keeps him alive for now. But streak up once more. He's going in. Is he going to go crashing down? He has essentially a living ward at this moment. And the team doesn't even opt for a Gold Fury. Instead, they're just going back to lane to farm.
We saw Streak Up decide whether or not he wanted to dunk onto Johnny there. We don't really know if the overhead kick was available, or at least Streak Up likely did not. If he does dunk down and overhead kick comes through, Streak Up immediately loses out on his life. So I like the disciplined play to return back to lane, try and keep farming up. And yeah, that's been a fight that went really well for Cold Llamas, but take a peek at the XP across the board. We're still favoring Belt Slap. Gold, still favoring Belt Slap, because they're making proactive plays, whereas Cold Llamas is playing completely reactive. Even off of that clean engagement, a fantastic pick on a Trixtank, they weren't able to do anything. No buff invades, no neutral camps confirmed, Gold Fury not contested, and a lot of that is because Cold Llamas are so far behind that really all they can get is that 1 kill.
Yeah, it's really awkward here. About 800 gold right now, separating like the solo laners, as well as a 1.5, 2 level lead there picked up for Julio. So something that is keeping them alive and comfortable right now, especially when the solo laners start to rotate in. You can expect to see more of Julio like you did last game. Johnny, though, kind of in an odd spot where if you get caught out like that, I think that's just well played from Cold Llamas, right? You're able to help lock down everybody and kind of in a checkbox go, cool, we got rid of Trixtank, now we can get rid of Johnny, we forced out Arkle. Like, we know they're not going to be able to fight the same way that Belt Slap like to fight. So maybe trying to find those, honestly, kind of weird skirmishes where you bait them in based on fails is going to work out. But Belt Slap don't tend to make the same mistakes twice. And if they do, they tend not to then make it a 3rd time in the game. So we'll have to see how they do it as Arkle gets a crest on. That hammer does so much damage. Unfortunately for Streak Up, he just doesn't really have anything after it.
He doesn't. He needs the follow-up from his team. If he made it to this phase of the game from even, that very likely could have resulted in a kill for him, but because he was able to get shut down so well in the early game, playing into a 2-level deficit, it's going to take a lot of those to find the kill into Arkle. And if Arkle's allowed to auto-attack the wave a couple times, he's got the added benefit of sustain that this Thor doesn't.
There's going to be the Sanctified Fields just for Peel for Pretty Prime, trying to stay alive, but that ult, it's got a massive cooldown, Mifflin, and now alongside his beads, it's going to be open. But Streak Up over here, the damage has been good. He's going in on Arkle, and Arkle doesn't have the juke shoes to make this one work. He's going to get taken down, but so is Pretty Prime. No beads, no ult, no life for the mid laner there for Cold Llamas, and now unfortunately it feels like Fails is going to be the one who's getting the follow-up. Johnny doesn't care that it's a tier 2 tower at 11 minutes. He's going in, finding the kill, and walking out A-OK. 4 members in a sort of death ball here from Belt Slap, and Maniac might be in danger, but it seems like they're going to ignore him. This Gold Fury is still right for the taking. They're still not looking at it either.
But they can pull it now. Since it is Jingwei on their team, able to fly in, should likely be able to get there in time, but not quick enough for Belt Slap to really care. I like this change of mentality at this 8-9 minute mark from Belt Slap. They realize, okay, Thor's starting to get a little bit powerful. He's got the Crusher available. The Warrior's Blessings make it a little bit too hard for us to want to kill him. Let's shift our focus to mid. We see Trix Tank rotate out, and we get that more traditional 3-on-3 inside the center of the map, and already we're seeing it starting to work out. Pretty Prime is very susceptible to damage and ganks on this Ola run. If Sanctified Fields is down, his life is essentially forfeit at that point. Whereas Streak Up on this Thor, we've already seen it 2-3 levels down. He's starting to hit his power spikes in that mid-game phase with the second item pickup that he's still able to fight into Arkle. But Arkle playing Jingwei is able to play incredibly safe if he so chooses, as long as he doesn't continue to look for these trades. Should be able to farm up that lane relatively safely.
Yeah, one of the better changes I think that Cold Llamas have made has been just making Arkle a little more uncomfortable. We saw what happened when this Jingwei was kind of running rampant last time. Unfortunately, it feels like it's come at a cost, right? Streak Up is able to get a lot done. I still think this Thor has some merits, but there's a 2-level deficit in the supports right now from what Trix Tank has been able to kind of set up and accomplish. A lot of the core of this last team fight, or last game, I should say, from Cold Llamas was built around this Ola run Yamoja, and it didn't really get to shine bright there. I'll be honest, Mifflin, it doesn't seem like it's going to be shining too bright, at least so far in Game 2. I mean, and there's nothing to be said. Like, the ults have been solid. It just really is the follow-up they have right after them that nothing's been able to make anything happen on the side of Cold Llamas as of late.
But the follow-up should be easier to find this time around. Instead of having a traditional hunter who's looking for auto attacks, Streak Up in the air, going to dunk down in the middle of the Sanctified Field. That should be easy enough. Fails doing the exact same on a Warrior. Maniac. I mean, Cold Llamas have an incredibly strong front line.
Well, speaking of being able to dunk down, I thought we might see Streak Up go up into the air. This Gold Fury is being danced around.
Nice gold.
That's going to be the walls. Really good block off. Trix Tank going to go down into the passive there. A couple of autos should make sure that death happens, but that's the spin to win. Maniac looking for another pick, this time onto Julio, right into the Sharks, but the Dazzling Offense in return is going to find a 3-man stun inside the Sanctified Fields. Johnny doesn't care for it. He's going to go ahead and ult on out, look for something to try and turn this around, but Streak Up having that ability to get into the backline instantly changes things. Arkle gets chased down by Fails because of the damage done by the Thor, and now Cold Llamas, even though they're forced to retreat, they walk away 2-for-0 in this fight so far.
And they've got plenty of sustain through Yamoja. Going to be able to re-engage on this Gold Fury. Julio is trying to sustain up himself. Being a level 14 Amaterasu, even without the Dazzling Offensive available to him, it's going to be very hard for Cold Llamas to kind of fight around him and look for this objective. So it's smart of them to just go ahead and back up, take the small win inside of that team fight. It almost turned around in Belt Slap's favor. Off of the blink in from Johnny, he tried to shift his attention for the double dunk onto Pretty Prime and Gravy, I believe it was, around that bottom left mid camp, but he wasn't quite able to find his ultimate's real spacing, and the damage output just falls off immediately from there. Belt Slap was forced to disengage. Cold Llamas are playing on a very thin tightrope in these engagements, but again, fantastic pickup. They get Trix Tank separated out, early pick in the fight, and immediately try and transition it into more. I mean, perfect play.
Well, Johnny's 5-0-0 right now, and no deaths online for Julio or Zeros either. So it really is the duo lane that maybe has something left to prove. Trix Tank caught out there by, again, a beautiful ult from Gravy, which is part of the reason we see this Yamoja typically higher prioritized, first pick for a lot of these teams in the Pro League. She can change the pace of a game. So can Thor in the right hands, as we've seen from the likes of like Panatom, and insert other junglers here, but Over here, it's Streak Up making the carry work. So far, so good. The jukes coming alive. The ranged autos don't matter if you can dodge them. The ult's forced to come out from both members of the duo lane here. Arkle may be able to turn this around with the help of Johnny, but that's going to be the leap in instead from the Osiris. Fails, looking for one more hit. Not able to find it, but there's no healing online for Beltslap. Arkle seems to be safe. So does Trickstank as he steps aside from that stun. Fails, trying to chase him down. Maniac trying to find something, but they're fishing in a pond with nothing. They're not going to be able to find a bite. And Beltslap walk out of this one alive.
And Beltslap also pick up a tier 1 mid tower in mid, which is going to open up the map completely. That makes every single neutral objective in the game so much easier to clear out. If Beltslap win a fight around the Gold Fury, where's Cold Llamas going to run to? Duo lane? It's so easy to route you there. Go mid? Well, there's no bastion of safety, and the same could be said of the Pyromancer. That's a huge swing around play. I mean, the Aegis from Arkle really was the clincher there. Immediately, he was able to avoid all the damage output from Fails, disengage himself, clean play, and now I imagine Beltslap are going to group up, use this 5,000 gold lead to force a fight around this Gold Fury. They need to win out very quickly on the engagement. They don't have the same level of sustain that Cold Llamas have. If Cold Llamas are able to elongate the fight, use that Yamoja sustain to really just take a small lead, every bit of poke is going to matter. But if Beltslap went out initially, it doesn't really matter how much healing you have.
Well, they're going to have to figure out how they want to try to win this one out. Sanctified Fields available there for Oleron. The ult available for Streak Up as well. That Anvil of Dawn, last time used to jump into the back onto Arkle, could make a difference as Julio's just trying to chase down anyone and everyone that stands in his way. If he can get some Proc Red there onto the Xing Chen, he might be able to find it. And Johnny is going real deep in mid lane, clearing up some minions, but might make for a good gank. If he can find it. Maniac, everyone's pinging over here. They recognize Julio's alone, and they're going to go in. River's Rebuke, trying to lock him down, but Dazzling Offense in response, going to be able to once again stun people, but it's under the Sanctified Fields the second time this game, so there's no effective follow-up from Beltslap. Gold Fury going to be started up by the team in red here, just Beltslap, and they're just going to try to confirm it. Anvil of Dawn, up into the air goes Thor, but Beltslap confirmed themselves. The Gold Fury comes dunking down on Arkle, but the beads are going to be able to keep him from getting stunned. Pretty Prime finds a kill finally onto the solo laner, and Julio going down is going to make a big difference. Trickstank trying to do whatever he can for his own, but it looks like Beltslap just want to be able to get it out, but 4 stacked up from Cold Llamas. Trickstank maybe trying to find something. Johnny waiting around the corner for his chance to go in, and then in a 3v4 with Arkle coming back in, they're going to continue fighting this Mifflin. They're looking for anything and everything. Fails has no mana. The lockdown looks like it's going to be good. The Thorns not enough to stop Johnny, and that's going to be 1 kill there. The crits ringing true for Arkle right now from the backline, and that's going to be Pretty Prime going down. A double kill for the jungler. Gravy loses his life, and now it's just Streak Up. Nothing he can do. Triple kill for Johnny. 8-0-1, and this Robin's making a tear.
Gorp, God bless your lungs, man. That was a long team fight you had to cast, and there was a lot to break down there. The disengage from Beltslap is perfect, but it's afforded to them because Cold Llamas immediately start off that fight by using Yamoja Ultimate, by using the Sanctified Field, both for disengage at the exact same time. Cold Llamas lose out on both of their best team fight tools as well. There's no chase potential. Beltslap's allowed to retreat relatively for free, only training out 1, and it doesn't really matter. Julio had already established dominance. He got his team the objective by zoning out, and then the fly back in from Arkle, he's largely ignored in the team fight. Don't ignore a Jingwei. She's got tons of damage, and now she's got a Fire Giant as well. Beltslap play it perfectly again. I mean, the disengage, the re-engage, the Trickstank sticking around in the fight just to make sure that Cold Llamas won't leave. He kind of used himself as bait just to keep them around. Beltslap are kind of just playing with them.
I mean, it's such a heads-up level play to have happen, unfortunately for them. On Cold Llamas, it's going to take a little bit, I think, to mentally recuperate from a fight like that, and it seems like that's going to be the case here for Gravy. Taken down all by his lonesome, and now that tier 2 is going to go down. Maniac tries to find anyone with that spin and grab. Unfortunately, Arkle's just going to go ahead and ult away from this one. Bede's still on cooldown from the last fight, and that's going to be Streak Up looking to dunk in onto Arkle, but that's not going to be enough. Fails has to find the follow-up, but they lose Streak Up and Maniac in the process. Unless Fails can turn something big around, this Phoenix should still go down. Pretty Prime's around, and there's the Sanctified Fields, but Johnny just doesn't care about this ultimate every single time he tries to get aggressive, but this time he bites off more than he can chew, turns towards the Phoenix, isn't able to find it. They finally, actually haven't. There it goes. Popped the Firebird over here. And now they're trying to figure out if they can get anything else. Fails goes down. Gravy, last man standing for Cold Llamas, but he's in the fountain, so they're going to back away here, happy with the Phoenix going down.
Look, they're not the prettiest fights from Belt Slap, but they are certainly effective. Trading out 4 members. I mean, we'll call that effectively. I think it was 7 kills total in that skirmish in favor of Belt Slap, but the respawn timers were able to come through from Cold Llamas. They're respawning pretty fast because of how low level they are due to the deficit. I mean, Gravy's level 12 at this point. He's just respawning constantly. Streak Up got up twice there in that fight as well. But Belt Slap are able to confirm themselves, only trading out 2 members. 6 kills, I believe, 7 kills, somewhere around there, as well as the Phoenix. That's a huge swing in their favor. What was 7,000 gold just a couple minutes ago is quickly and rapidly turned into 10,000 with a tier 1, tier 2, 2 tier 2s up rather still. There's so much passive gold available to be collected on the map. Fire Giant power play is going to be absolutely huge. Belt Slap don't even need to take another Phoenix on this push. If they're able to just clear out these towers, back up to Gold Fury, regroup, get the next Fire Giant themselves, they've primed themselves perfectly for a win.
Well, they're looking to get aggressive here, and something we were talking about, I believe, last week, we had mentioned it, but having Fire Giant still on your support and your solo laner means you have a lot of sustain for your front line. That so far is helping out Julio and Trixtank get some poke done, but now maybe too much. Streak Up goes crashing into the backline, once again looking for Arkle, but unable to lock down this Jingwei. Maniac gets the toss back. Julio going to be in the middle of the Sanctified Field alongside Zeros. That's going to be the lockdown they have. Fails. Credit for that kill, but it's a 4v5, and the aggression surprisingly still there from Belt Slap. Without their mid laner, though, it's going to be a different call. They're going to fall back. Johnny looks to run through the jungle. Trixtank is just trying to stay alive, but Julio once again sitting around the corner. It feels like the same old Belt Slap. They're just looking for their opportunity to get in there. The stun comes down from Streak Up to stop the aggression, but they're right back into it. Streak Up's locked down by the jungler. That's another kill for Johnny. 10-1 and 3. You lose Arkle in the process. It's a 3v4 with Trixtank and Julio once again leading the way for the team. Ults not available for anyone involved, but they're going to keep going. This Fire Giant buff keeping them sustained enough, but Johnny's too low. Tries to go in. Everyone's looking at him, and that's going to be a second death for the jungler here for Belt Slap, and it should be the call to retreat.
Yeah, it was a bit of an overzealous call from Belt Slap there to try and go for the Phoenix themselves. If they had disengaged, if that ultimate combo from Yamoja and Oleron wasn't so perfect, maybe that fight goes better and they look for the disengage on the tail end, but it doesn't quite work out for them.
And they're still going in, Mifflin. I mean, they're doing everything they can. Just these 2 frontliners versus the world. And they're not going down. They're just distracting. They're waiting as Zeros is back in the fight. Almost here and able to apply the damage. But Trixtank is low. Julio is at half. There's the Sanctified Fields. But here comes that arcane damage. And that's going to be enough to get rid of Pretty Prime. And they're going to continue chasing it down. Now Gravy and Maniac, they're the ones out of position. A 3v2 is quickly flipped to become, again, a 3v2. Maybe a 4v2 as Streak Up comes back into the fight. They get rid of Zeros. They look to get rid of Trixtank through this passive. Julio doing everything he can, and it's still a lot of damage from this Amaterasu. Arkle is back in the engagement, Mifflin. It's never going to end. They're going to keep chasing him down, keep looking for kills. Fails, comes in and is able to help trade out one more. Julio finally goes down, but the crits, they're ringing true for Arkle, and he's going to keep on chasing down. Fails. A couple more shots should get the kill here. And I don't even know the numbers on that one. That lasted forever.
Yeah, couldn't tell you how many kills there were. Couldn't tell you how many deaths happened, man. That's nuts. It's all random, all jungle at this point. But with the respawn timers as they aren't quite going to be able to defend on this Phoenix. If Johnny's able to just even blink in, auto-attack it twice, he should be able to clean it up. But it looks like he wants the kill instead.
They have no chill. You know what? He goes in, he's fighting. That's what he's doing here. That's the play-by-play, guys. It's no different than what he's done. He's still going to walk away with a kill from it. He's looking for the Phoenix as well. The River's Rebuke is going to come through, but he got what he wanted. He got the Phoenix. Honestly, there's no way. He's not going to escape with his life this time, but Johnny still walks it down right, finds the Phoenix, and keeps the pressure up for his team. And one of the most ridiculous plays, I thought, for no way there was going to be anything that happens there. So great from the jungler, once again from Beltslap to make something out of nothing.
Yeah, we love talking about Johnny, man. He won't let us not talk about him if he's going to make a play like that. Disrespectful, by the way. I mean, killing Streak Up, sure, it's nice, but if he just wanted to, blink in, hit the Phoenix 4 times, walk out, use your ultimate to escape, use your 2 to escape, but instead he decides, you know what, I want both. Give me Streak Up's life and give me the bird. I want it all, and it belongs to me. It works out fine for him. Streak Up has just got to be rolling his eyes like, how did that happen to me? I was under my Phoenix. Gravy was standing right next to me as well. What happened? What went wrong? And what went wrong was you played against Johnny.
Yeah, there's not much you can do. It's just, hey, yeah, Johnny was in the lobby. That was the decision that went wrong for you. And honestly, it wasn't even your decision. It was the admins, I think, at this point, and the scheduling that came through. So I guess there's something for Cold Llamas to try and blame. As the Fire Giant goes down, Beltslap in control of that one, and it's a 13,000 gold lead now for them. Still with a tier 2 up. By the way, there was an Oni Fury somewhere in there that happened that they now have even stronger minions running down right lane, mid lane, and left lane here. So I'm expecting a lot of aggression from them. Maybe not quite a, 2, 3, 4 minute long fight, but still something that is going to be, I'm sure, very eventful for Beltslap.
Yeah, Beltslap need to shift their focus on this siege. The 2 times we've seen Cold Llama successfully defend have been when they were able to perfectly use that Yamoja and Olderun ult at the exact same time. That's a double-edged sword, though. If Cold Llamas don't make it perfect the first time, they lose out on all their teamfight tools. All Beltslap have to do is disengage perfectly, or at least well enough on the first one.
Well, the damage coming through already, just a little bit from Zeros, as his goal, and Arkel's goal, I think, this time around is to try and stay alive. Streak Up has almost single-handedly zoned them out and or killed them outright in the background. That's that Oni Fire Minion wave coming in on right again. A lot of pressure for them there. It looks like mid lane going to be under pressure just a little bit as well, but it's pretty prime right now. Sanctified Fields used to disengage, but Julio finds himself on the other side of the wall for the River's Rebuke. Still finds the stun, but not able to find the kill. Up goes the Thor and comes crashing down once again, looking for Johnny. The stun not going to connect thanks to the overhead kick, and that's going to be a life for Johnny, but no longer for Streak Up. Now they're able to trade it out. Zeros goes down. This Merlin taken out of the equation, but so is Maniac. It looks like Fails might be close to follow up as Johnny's going to go in with reckless abandon. Doesn't care about his own life, doesn't care about his carries, only cares about the kills. Arkel finds a double. He's looking to try and chase down Gravy, but that's going to be game number 2, Mifflin. 4 members still standing for Beltslap. They're running in and into it.
Look, I mean, we said it, or you said it earlier. I'll never say it about any jungler ever. You didn't want to talk about him, but Johnny, again, 12, 3, and 6, top of the net worth for his team. I mean, he's got top kills, top kill participation both games now in this set. Dude's popping off, bro. This guy's an absolute beast in the jungle, and he's going to force us to talk about him whether you or I want to.
I actively avoid talking about him because it's so hard not to when you cast him, and then you want to. You're like, okay, how can I frame this in a way where it wasn't Johnny's fault for them winning, or wasn't Johnny's reasoning behind all this? He's 12, 3, and 6 this time around, collectively over 20 kills this set, maybe even able to get close to that 30 kill mark in just these 2 games. Very low deaths for him, for Julio. Arkel doesn't have as clean a game, and Zeros, I think, gets targeted out a little bit more, but it's just so well played, so counter-engaged. Beltslap just play so well in this region. There's a reason they've been number 1 all year.
But I do want to give some slight props to Streak Up there, dude. I mean, come on, man. He brought Thor into the duo lane, fell behind 2 or 3 levels, and then soloed Arkel. Twice, I think? I mean, he's doing great. I mean, unorthodox pick. I would have liked to see him at least transfer himself out of lane a couple more times. Try and rotate in. Try and shut down Zeros. Make use of that global ultimate to help out your team on a global scale. He seemed like he was a little bit focused in on keeping himself isolated in that duo lane, but can't fault him too much. It was excellent play.
There's only so much you can do in a lot of these scenarios. I think him and Fails, they had actually a lot going for them in terms of their dive potential. We saw it several times. But I think this was actually the fight that really broke everything. This is the one that lasted, for what felt like forever. A loss for Belt Slap that turned into a major loss for Cold Llamas as Trixtank just baited him out while he waited for Arkle to respawn. Then you get that later engagement where it shifts back into what I would argue 3 minutes, it felt like, for a full fight. There was just a lot that Belt Slap kept Cold Llamas engaged in, and moments where even if they won at the very beginning, it didn't last much longer for them. And now Belt Slap find themselves 3-0 here in Week 3. They've won every single set in front of them. Cold Llamas, unfortunately, a 1-2, and I believe we'll be playing again tomorrow night. Because I have to remember it's Friday right now as we see them. Yeah, they'll be going up against Donkey Hoof. Belt Slap there against Snake Pit tomorrow at 1 p.m. So that one, in my eyes, might just be a do not miss. That should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of watching Belt Slap play in general. I'll call them the European SCC version of Ghost Gaming, right? I mean, These guys seem like they're able to just fight into just about any scenario. They play aggressively. They're able to farm up in the early game. They continually look for pressure. I mean, look, I might just be a Johnny fanboy now that I'm thinking about it, because everything I'm thinking about is things that are afforded to them from the pressure through the jungler, and it's fantastic to see how diverse his god pool is. Let's not forget that both games this set, he had 4 or 5 targeted bans towards him, as well as his own team banning out a couple junglers as well. He fell back to the Robin because they really took out 7 or 6 picks from that assassin page.
And hey, when you're already in the groove from game 1, might as well keep going there on the Robin. It looked good in the first one, so I think that was an easy rollout for Johnny. But very much like you said, it is that point where he is so difficult to control. It feels difficult to control the mid lane. It's difficult to control Arkle and Trixtank and Julio. At that point, you just can't really do much against Belt Slap. So hopefully you watch the footage, you do some studying, and we'll see someone maybe take it to this just powerhouse in Europe as of right now. But that does it for today's SCC. SPL is what you should have on your next block. Starting at 3 p.m., but in about 15 minutes, guys, we're going to have the SPL waiting room. So get your drinks, get your snacks while you can. We'll be back in a few.